welcome, Laurel. We greatly appreciate your leadership, all you do for the community. But as always, we begin all things by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So thanks so much for joining. Thanks for participating in this interview. And if you can briefly just tell me, just introduce yourself actually to our listeners and viewers and tell us some remarkable work that you're doing right now.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Laurel Sabur. I was born and raised on a beautiful island of Jamaica. And I moved to Canada in 2010. Came to Canada for school. So I did grad school here in Canada. And a part of my journey coming to Canada was really not just about school, but later on realizing that it was about discovering more of myself. So moving out of my home that I grew up in, I felt a little bit restricted, and coming to Canada, just exploring a new environment, to learn more about myself beyond just my identity of being Jamaican. Um, and that kind of translated into my career journey. I started out working in Jamaica in the investment banking sector. So I started off with this huge aspiration of like being an executive of like some big successful financial institution, and thinking that my focus would be just on making money. And when I came to Canada and started exploring more of myself, I realized that I really wanted heart-centered things to focus on, things that really brought me joy and things that were beyond just making money and for myself. And so I spent 10 years of my career starting in Jamaica, coming in parts of Canada, working at investment banking, asset management firms, and then transitioned into more community economic development things. And so working at the city of Edmonton, which was primarily focused on community economic development, and then slowly finding my way working at the intersection of where business and finance and community meets. And so that's been kind of like my journey, because I really felt like I wanted to utilize my tangible skill sets, which is, finance, strategic planning, mathematics, in a way that really helped me to focus on people and creating impact in the lives of people. And so that has led me into know what I am as the manager for community investments at Raleigh Assets. And so Raleigh Assets is an impact investing firm and advisory firm. And the organization's mission is really investing in opportunities that create a social and environmental mandate, and that also has a financial return alongside it. And so, yeah, the world of impact investing has been a space that has kind of brought I wouldn't say all of who I am, but some of the layers of who I am. And yeah, it's been fun. So prior to working at Raleigh, I've done some work in Kenya, in Ghana, and I'm very much intrigued with the growth of the impact investing space and how communities have benefited elsewhere. And so right now, focusing on creating and deploying, I would say creating and executing the community investment strategy for Raleigh, which is essentially helping to bring capital into grassroots community-based organizations to scale their operations in community.
Okay, great. Yes. I love how you said, you're undoing the layers. So it was just all finance, and then when you you come to Canada, you see the social aspect of it and the importance of it. You know what I mean? That's really good. That's amazing. And
Yeah,
can you articulate your personal mission and vision for us?
yeah, sure. Okay, so I would say my personal mission changes as I evolve, you know. Right now my current personal focus is practicing acceptance. And so that's acceptance of myself I am, and then allowing myself to accept others. And so it really, why it's a focus for me is that it really is helping me to show up authentically and to help create from that place of authenticity. And I find that how it translates to my work is that in community, at the end of the day, every human wants to be seen and heard and to be accepted. And so if I am struggling to accept myself, it's going to be very hard for me to accept others in community. And so my personal focus is, yeah, that practice of acceptance. How much can I accept myself right now with all the flaws and the crap that I'm dealing with every day within me in my head? Um, and can I allow myself to accept others who may be different from me, others who may have different perspectives in the world. And so I think it's yeah, so that's my personal mission that translates into my work. And I realize that a part of this economic model that we're working in, this globalized economic model we're working in, has been a model that's been created only for a few. It's not it hasn't been designed for many. It's designed for a few, for a selective few. And I think that most people are operating in this economic model from a place of pretense. They're working in an economic model that doesn't really bring them joy, and it's not supporting them in the way that they really want to work and live and play in life. And so I often sit back and reflect on how can we reimagine a world or economic model that reflects or authenticity, reflects the truth of who we really are, and reflects the actual needs that we have, and where we can create the realities that we really embed, the reality that we really, really desire to live within. And so a part of my role, which is fairly new, I was the private investment research manager before for 2 years, and then slowly then transitioned into community investment manager. And so I feel like within this journey, it's really about helping persons or organizations, members of communities to design the reality that is suited for them, and help to facilitate how we can create that together through a partnership, in a partnership that allows us to deploy capital within the constructs that we have. So I think that's pretty much sums up a lot of mission, how it translates to work. And so it's essentially, for me, what really drives me right now is acceptance, and then from there I can create and journey together with other persons in the community investment space.
Right. Amazing. And what inspires you most about your current work?
Hmm. That's also a interesting question, and a moving target. Inspiration changes as I evolve. When I started out working in the community development space, impact investing space, my inspiration at the time, which was in 2015, um, so that's how long? 2015, that's what, 7 years, 7, 8 years. Um,
Yeah.
At the time, my inspiration was more driven by wanting to learn about people and wanting to create impact for others. And there was a little bit of ego that was based in it. It was more of like, oh, well, yeah, I wanna save the planet. I want to save the world. I want to do all these good, great things. Um, but I realized that my vision of a good world was not always informed by the things that really mattered to other people, right? And so um, I've shifted quite a bit over the years as I've grown, where I don't really feel this urgency as much to like fix the world based on my limited worldviews. But to really listen and to learn from others in terms of what matters. So what I'm inspired by other people. I'm inspired by what people are doing in community. I'm inspired by how they see the world, and inspired by the actions that they're taking, given some of the hurdles that they're faced. Their I guess the diligence and the grit to move through some of the challenges that they encounter. And so I'm inspired by that grit, and at the same time, have a willingness to listen and to find ways that we can find solutions together. So there's that. That's one piece of inspiration. I hope that was clear. Um the next piece is quite it's actually something that isn't something I talk a lot about. Um, but it's the unintended consequential impact that I create when I show up in spaces. And what that means is, I'll give an example. 2 weeks ago, I was at a conference, and I was on an investor panel. And there was a young girl in the audience that every time I looked into the audience and I looked at her, she always had this glimmer of like light in her eyes, and she was just smiling in her eyes. And I never, like, I saw her and I was like, huh, she's just so lovely and pleasant. And after the event, she came up to me, and she's probably around 21, 20 years of age. I'm just estimating. Very young, and she's a founder. So she started this awesome app and she's based here in Calgary. And she says to me, I just want to say that I was very inspired by not only seeing a Black woman on a panel and a Black woman in a position that I have, but then when she found out that I was Jamaican as well, it just was even more inspirational for her. And so I cry now, but the thing is, she said that, so she's born to Jamaican parents, born here in Canada, and she for her, starting a business was like this huge thing for her family, right? Just starting a business, having to say somebody in her family is an entrepreneur is a big deal, right? And something that her family members could have never envisioned. And for her to now see another level of what's possible, for her was something that I needed someone to remind me that my impact that I'm creating is not always the getting someone to tell me good job, Laurel, but the impact that I'm creating is touching people's lives by just showing up into spaces and being a representation. And so yeah, that was very touching, and I find that happens sometimes from time to time. And because I had my inspiration, women that I've seen on stage, on TV, that just inspired me to say, wow, you can be a boss, babe. You can be, in charge of your life. You can actually have some real power. And so for someone to say that about me was very touching. And so that inspires me. It inspires me to keep going. It inspires me to show up in spaces that I may be the only Black woman, I may be the only woman, but just simply showing up is a statement and effective.
Exactly. That's beautiful. I love to hear that. Our youth really are looking up to the previous generation. What do we call ourselves? I don't know. Are we the millennials? I don't know. I don't even know these terms much anymore because
Sure.
it's, yeah, so, but they're looking up to us because we weren't necessarily taught to leave legacies in that aspect. So when you're
Mm,
saying the family never even thought of, that their family, so somebody in their family would be an entrepreneur, that's huge. Just
mhm.
goes to show you that, you know what, even though our past generations didn't really give us that red carpet, that golden ticket to guide us,
Yeah.
it's still a generational opportunity when you make yourself present, that you
Yeah.
ignite something within. You understand? It's almost like you're creating a spark within that
Yeah.
generation that never thought in their mind that they could actually do it, but just for showing up, just being present, you ignite something. And even if she had that ignition already within her, you
Yeah.
kept it going, you kept the
Go.
light going, you kept the flame going.
Yeah, and
That's
I
amazing.
will never say that I will take ownership of creating that light in her. I
Right,
think
exactly.
it's always there, right? And
Always
as
there. Yeah.
it's always there. Everyone has their light. Sometimes you need an external catalyst to kind of get that light
Yeah,
amplified.
keep it. Yes,
So
yes,
I'm
yes.
not gonna say, oh, it's me that inspired her, and oh my gosh, she's off on her journey. But
No, no. Mhm.
she had a light, my pres and being able to see representation really sparked, really was, amplified that light. And so it's interesting because I think that when we talk about the social finance space, community development space, there's a lot about, we often talk about, okay, well, how can we really bring more capital into equity deserving communities, or equity deserving communities. Um, and I think that, capital is a big piece of things, and
Mhm.
representation is also another. And so that's a I would say a small example. That's an example of where representation can matter, because I think that as individuals, as people, we respond differently to our lives when we see others who look like us, who have similar experiences, similar traits, similar features. It does something to us. It creates a sense of safety for you in the world. And so I think that that's a piece that we need to push more as we think about social finance space and community development, and any, not just social finance space, just anywhere, like just
Yeah.
having
Mhm.
is very important.
Absolutely. Excellent. So, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work, and how do you and your team work to overcome that or overcome them?
Um, I would say one of the challenges is it's a challenge, and then it's just something to just accept, is that we don't know it all. We don't have the answer for everything, and so, and what I mean by that is there are times that we're going to make decisions that people in the communities may agree with, and there are certain decisions that are made that people in communities may not agree with. And there's going to be room for more dialogue with community to help inform certain designs and decision making. So I guess that the challenge is always navigating that balance of having informed community decisions that can represent and meet the needs of as many people. And the thing is that sometimes you can do community engagements time and time after again, but you're still gonna have folks that may not still be happy, you know? And so it's like how, you know, finding that balance. It's like finding that balance where as many stakeholders can gain from certain decisions or certain initiatives created. So yeah, I think that's one challenge. It's like meeting the needs of meeting the serving community in a way that, you know, community feels heard. And yeah, so I think that's probably, I wouldn't say a challenge, it's just it's a journey. It's a
Mm-hmm.
journey. You know, I don't think any person will have a one size fit all approach to designing a strategy that does have some implications for community, you know. So it's a journey. So learning, what else in terms of other challenges, other things,
And barriers.
or barriers. Hmm. So right now, with the design and the rollout of our fund, the Realized Capital Fund, which is seeded by the Social Finance Fund, it's still very early days, you know. We're pretty much 2 months in, or 3 months in, 2 to 3 months in since the announcement. And so again, I wouldn't call it a challenge or a barrier, but you know, I think it's there's this balance between ensuring that we have the right systems and processes in place internally, and then also responding to um the requests coming in from community, right? So, you know, folks may be eager to want to have capital deployed and invested quickly. And so it's that balance of, okay, yes, we want to meet those requests as quickly as possible, but then we also want to make sure that we have the right systems and processes in place to ensure that the strategies effective and sustainable, and that those who we are serving, which is community, can also have like a sustainable runway, a runway that they can benefit over the next 5 years, right? So is that a challenge? It's an interesting challenge, you know. It's like interesting challenge. Let me try and think of another, maybe something that you would probably think is more of like a barrier. Um, oh, I think within the social finance ecosystem, there are different degrees of market readiness. So you have some social purpose organizations that are, you know, have the structures, the very appropriate systems and structures in place to accept capital. And then there are some folks that will need some time to develop that. Um, I think that there is a gap between the language that exists between, say, from a investment standpoint and versus what some social purpose organizations are used to. So social purpose organizations are primarily used to grant capital. And so, you know, I think that a challenge that we'll continue to have is helping folks within community helping folks in community to understand the difference between where grant capital is and investment capital is, and then for us to understand their world as well, so that we can find a middle ground that these social purpose organizations can grow and scale to a point where they can handle investment capital because it's different. Investment capital, there's components of different types of reporting, as well as having structures in place that you can repay capital. So it's the different motivations, different pushes behind it. It also helps to ensure that social purpose organizations are operating in a more sustainable and independent way. And so I think one of the challenge is like managing the expectations. So folks may be used to receiving grant capital, and that's different from investment capital. So expectations has been something so far that we've had to manage, where non-for-profits have approached thinking that we're issuing grant capital. It does provide an opportunity to share more and bring some more awareness and find ways that we can create healthy partnerships and solutions to get them to a point they can accept investment capital. So I think that's a challenge that will continue to exist, I think, over time as we work with community-based organizations to think through capital in a different way than that they're actually used to.
Yeah.
So, and I think so I think that those are a few challenges that we've identified, but also just a part of the process of developing a strategy and deploying it. And I think it's just a matter of time and communication, strong relationships, the partnerships that will help us to kind of navigate more through some of those challenges identified.
Right. Okay, brilliant. And do you have a set of key priorities in your work now?
So right now, given that the fund itself is in its 2 to 3 months phase, the priority right now is focused on market sensitization. And so what that means is really getting out into community and talking a little bit more about what Realized Capital Fund is about. So just for clarity, I am with Raleigh Assets, and Raleigh Assets is one of the partners that manages Realized Capital Fund. So the Realized Capital Fund is a fund that is seeded by the social finance funding from the federal government. And we are in the process of fundraising to meet our $400 million target for that fund. And that fund is being used to deploy in different ways. So the community investment stream is one, investing in emerging fund managers and established fund managers, and then investing directly in certain social purpose organizations. And so a part of the focus is bringing that awareness to communities, that this is what our strategy is, and inviting folks to express their interest to partner and work with us. And so priority right now is doing that market sensitization, and then we're having our expression of interest further on into this year. And so we would like to have folks respond to those expression of interest. And so we're developing the processes and tools to kind of get us to that place. So those are some priorities. Other priorities, I would say, also includes responding to some of the interest that has been expressed so far. So we've had a few organizations reaching out to us, sharing with us some of their business models and their investment strategies that, they're inviting us to work and partner with them. And so we have some office hours online that folks can check in and book an office hour time with myself and other folks on the team to have a conversation about what they're working on and what they intend to work on. and for us to explore how we could best partner. And so those are some things that have already started. So the office hours are available. We have a few folks who have sent us stuff through our website. And then we're doing a couple of roadshow events. So we're going to different cities, starting to go through different cities. And there are organizations that have reached out to us, inviting us to come and speak to some of their networks of different non-for-profits. And so yeah, so the market sensitization is a big piece, bringing that awareness and really initiating some partnerships.
Great. Amazing. And how do you feel about the future of social finance and social innovation in Canada?
I am very hopeful. I think that the social finance and innovation market is very established elsewhere. So and it's a bit more established, I would say, in Australia, in the US. And I think that right now is Canada's time. And I think that the growth of the ecosystem is going to be driven by a number of different factors. I think that one of the reasons I would say things have lagged is there hasn't really been a lot of, like, in the early days, the landscape wasn't necessarily fully supported by different levels of government, right? And I've seen that landscape change drastically in a positive way, where there is more spaces and conversations, policies that are being led by different levels of government, right? And so that's a huge thing, because that's a big part of having a healthy landscape for the social innovation and impact investing space or social finance space to grow. And then, of course, that being highlighted by the Social Finance Fund from the federal government. So I would say from a macro level, there is that government support. So that's good. And then I would say another variable that I would see driving the growth is the migration, the immigration. So I'm based in Edmonton, Alberta. The Western Canada has the fastest growing Black population in Canada right now. There's a number of people migrating here from other provinces and outside of the country. And I think that the persons who are migrating are highly skilled workers. And so these are individuals that are coming in with either previous experience running a business outside of Canada, and may possibly be looking to start their own business here in Canada, right? And I've met a few folks. I've met a few folks who are newcomers and they've already started running their business. I'm like, wow, they're just on the ball, starting ready to go, right? And I think that really speaks to the growth of the pipeline, a potential pipeline for fund managers that are participating in the social finance space to see a little bit more investable opportunities, hopefully over the next few years, as we have this growth in migration or growth in immigration. And that makes me very hopeful. It makes me very hopeful that there's that shift happening, right? Another piece I would say too is, young people, they're not to be played with. You have these really young emerging leaders that are stepping up and they are ready to create a world for themselves. That is a world that I am excited to see. And so they are pushing boundaries and creating sophisticated innovation, sophisticated technology that I see as a catalyst for building out like really cool pipeline for that social finance to be deployed into. And then, another thing too is the community voice has definitely it's a much you are it's a lot more, you hear the community voice now more than like say 10 years ago. And that also influences change. You know, communities is just not they're not settling. They want change. They want to be able to grow. They want to grow their business model, their operations and scale, and they're not settling. And that's huge. That's good. It's you know, that does help to generate that change. So then another piece, another layer to the landscape is having traditional investors coming into the space. So sources of capital that never ever participated in social finance, you know, maybe they participated in the public markets, in, you know, traditional venture capital markets, are more they're now impact curious. You know, they're now looking into, okay, how do I place my capital and have an environmental and a social lens, you know? How can I be a little bit more responsible with how I place capital? And so that's big. You know, that's big. I think that will speak to that also, that growth in the social finance space is where these impact curious investors now move over into the space and recognize that um, they can still have meet some of their financial targets while creating you know, environmental and social impact. They can intentionally create that social and environmental impact without foregoing some form of financial return.
Right. Wow. Amazing. It's a lot to unpack with that, you know, but it's all this work is so crucial, so vital, just for change, you know, catalyst
Mm-hmm.
of change there. And what is your ultimate goal, and what does success look like for you and your colleagues?
My ultimate goal with my with Rally Assets, what's Rally Assets' ultimate goal?
Yeah, let's if you want to put it that way, or like, what does success look like to you personally as well, you and your team, mhm, your colleagues.
I would say that excuse me, I mean, impact investing, and you know, interchangeably use that word with social finance. I think with the social finance space, it's really geared towards creating a model that is less extractive as the economic model that we've all grown up being a part of. Um, and really about focused on intentionally creating a social and environmental impact. Can I repeat that? Can you edit out that piece there?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Just say please edit, and then our team will just edit that part, and then you can repeat. Go ahead. Yeah.
That's cool. Please edit that part. All right. So, um, I would say that with a social finance space, the goal of social finance is to reimagine how capital, how money is used, and used in a way that is creating environmental and social impact, right? And how this compares to the traditional economic model, or more like that capitalistic model that we're used to, is that the capitalistic model is more about like profits. And the intention is to create profits, regardless of if there is some social risk or environmental risk sometimes. And so I think with this, you know, with social finance space is really to kind of reimagine and to remodel how we operate in the world. And so my personal goal is to really support that reimagining and that creation of where individuals can create their businesses from their authenticity, and investors can invest from their place of their own alignment with their personal values. without feeling that there is a aspect of losing out, right? Where they, if an investor is still inclined to wanting to create that financial sustainability for themselves through that financial return, they can still do so without creating any social risk and without creating environmental risk, without going against their own personal values. And so I guess my goal is really to support that visioning of where we are so much more focused on like that social and environmental impact creation, doing it in a sustainable way. Myself, I have worked with non-for-profits before. And so some non-for-profit organizations are really great at creating their social change in the communities that they serve. Now, one of the things that I've identified, which I think we all probably have seen, is that some non-for-profits, not all, some non-for-profits struggle with sustaining the impact that they create in community. And so imagine a world where we have organizations that who are already creating the impact can sustain themselves. They can have some sense of independence. They're not dependent on grants all the time. Because grants have some of their limitations as well, right? In terms of what you can do, what programming you can create and stuff. But these non-for-profits can now be reimagined in a way where they can still continue to create impact in community and doing so in a sustainable way. And in creative ways, right? So that's piece of my goal, is that how that reimagining translates into community. Another piece that I would like to see is a part of my personal goal is really helping the unseen become seen. And so there are a number of different actors in communities that are doing fantastic things. But they're not often at the big tables. They're not at these big conversations talking about social finance. But they're doing really good stuff, and sometimes they're struggling doing those really cool stuff, So it's like, how can we bring them more visibility and connect the worlds with investors who have the source of capital to invest and amplify the impact that those unseen actors are creating. And some of these community actors, I will say, I talk a lot about the community investment stream, but we do have fund managers that are geared towards investing in really cool portfolio companies, companies that are creating like really cool, whether it's clean tech or, food, ag tech, or, or companies that are just run by underserved community members. So we have fund managers that are geared towards just investing in Black founders or BIPOC founders. And so that's a part of our goal. Our goal is also, to really drive that wealth creation and that wealth generation in a different way. That's different from the community investment stream. Yeah, I would say, no, actually, please edit that. I think I'm mumbling a little bit there. I wanted to say that the goal of the organization beyond just the community investment stream shows up in the way that we invest in emerging fund managers and fund managers. And some of these fund managers are investing in BIPOC founders, or they're investing in very interesting technology that is geared towards an environmental or social impact generation. So it could be some form of climate tech or ag tech. And so our mission and goal is helping to amplify that impact. And those impacts could even be creating that wealth generation within equity deserving communities. by investing in a fund manager that invests in BIPOC founders, or women founders. And so it's really, really shifting the equity of capital, shifting how we use capital, and shifting how we really operate in relationship to our social and environmental needs.
Excellent, excellent. And yeah, we'll edit, so don't worry. And okay, so do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action now?
I feel like I just never justified that question, Matt. The one that I just answered.
Oh, it sounded good. You wanted to redo it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so
I think I'm
team,
tired. I'm really tired. I'm really
yeah,
tired.
yeah, yeah. I know you've been on for a while. So okay, so the ultimate goal, right? So yeah, summarize it then. Like what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like to you and your colleagues? So you yourself and Rally Assets. Just
Okay,
summarize it.
perfect. All right. So for myself, I would say that one of my goals is really helping this unseen become seen. And so that's realizing that there are community actors in community doing really, really amazing work that are maybe struggling with making their operations more sustainable. And so they may not be at some of these tables, these big tables where we talk about social finance. And so one of my goals is really helping those organizations to be more visible, where capital can actually be deployed in their operations and they can scale and grow and continue to do the great work that they're doing in community. As an organization, I think, one of the biggest premise behind the social finance strategy that we're deploying is social equity. And so that means ensuring that capital is going into groups or communities that have been either overlooked in other forms of capital deployment, and groups that actually require more support, right? And so that could include the Black communities, Indigenous communities, the communities, the disability communities, LGBT communities, and women, newcomers. And so I think that a part of our goal is really integrating those lens in how we think about capital and where capital is being deployed and some of the partners that we would have an interest to work with. And then in that, what that does, it helps to kind of reimagine how we work and how reimagine a society, a world within Canada, outside of Canada, where we have a different relationship with money, and where we can still be generating a financial return, but at the same time, really intentionally creating that social and environmental impact. So I would say that's a part of our mission and goal.
Okay, perfect. Love it. So any calls to action or your closing thoughts and your calls to action?
I have a few. So it depends on where an audience, whoever the viewers are. If you are a community-based organization, the call to action right now is to, if you're at that process of like thinking through how to amplify impact in community, is to reach out to us. You can reach out to us by booking some office hours with me, conversating a little bit more about what your mission is in your community, and for us to discuss what a partnership of co-creating some kind of investment strategy could look like. And then if you are already have some form of investment strategy or a lending process that you have in your community, still reach out to us. We want to be able to still partner and see how we could amplify that. If you're a new emerging fund manager, an established fund manager, we're looking forward to also meeting you as well. Recognizing that, through our partnership, we can find ways where we can not only just provide capital, but find ways that we can find some alignment in our partnership development where the fund itself can grow and scale and have some sustainable some sustainable operations over the next couple of years. And then I would say that a call to action for, I guess, just a general call to action. When we think about the social finance space, it has to be really driven by what really matters to you. You know, what is your personal values? The personal values really informs how we think about capital, how we think about the deployment of capital, how we think about the creation of investment vehicles or operations, community-based organizations. And your why, having clarity on your why really informs your inspiration for the long haul. And so my call to action is having clarity in general on what is your values and what is your why in life. And so, yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. Wow, this was so amazing. There's so much to unravel, and I know our viewers would get a lot of good information and know the importance of this as far as being a player, being a community, a social based team player, right? To really amplify, like you said, amplify the voices of the people that actually also want to make change, So you are making change, and in order to help the people that also want to make change within the community on a social finance and a social innovation level. So that's beautiful. I really appreciate it. On behalf of Setsi, we appreciate you so much. And you have any final? Do you want to say anything? Anything final or?
Yeah, I think it's more of a response to what you just said. I kind of see myself, yes, I'm creating change, but I don't know, I just feel like I'm a conduit for change, meaning by
Mm-hmm.
through communications with community that I can learn and listen, and so
Mm-hmm.
I want to help continue facilitate that change. And so yeah, I think that's probably my final thoughts, but I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate the opportunity the opportunity to speak. I don't like that part, my aunt. I feel in jittery.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it was beautiful. You're great. Everything you said was perfect. It's authentic. People totally understood you for sure. For sure.
Well,
So,
thanks a lot.
so yes. So we appreciate your time and your remarkable leadership. And we will close the way we began in this interview by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We also acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty.